right, welcome in to an episode of Final Yard. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me, Ethan J. Skolnick, on 5 Reasons Sports. I got Ron Caniff. You can follow me at Ron Caniff Fins. Michael Quirk, you can follow at SJB Michael. We may be joined by others as we go here. I'm going to take your comments as we go. We are sponsored by Prize Picks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Try to get a win tonight. I lost because I didn't have Dalvin Cook's receiving yards. But go to Prize Picks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Get your initial deposit matched up to $100. You can download it from the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store, or from prizepicks.com. Again, use the code 5, F-I-V-E. All right, let's get to it. The Miami Dolphins lose today 24-16 to the Minnesota Vikings. They lose their starting quarterback, who was their third-string quarterback, Skylar Thompson. They lose him to a finger injury. Teddy Bridgewater has to come into the game. Had some okay moments late, but uninspiring for a lot of it. The defense held up pretty well for a while. Xavier Howard made a big difference. They kept losing corners, though. Nick Needham looks like he's going to be out a long time. Crossan got hurt also. They were playing Eric Rowe out of position. They were kind of all over the place. But essentially, they had a chance at the end of this thing because I just don't think the Vikings are very good, honestly. They had a chance at the end of this thing where they were driving. Bridgewater hits Waddle for a first down. Waddle is stripped by Harrison Smith. We can talk about that play in particular. And then right after that, the backbreaker, the Dalvin Cook run for a touchdown. And that was pretty much it. Miami comes back with a Gesicki touchdown, doesn't get the 2-point conversion. I guess the big story today to me, other than the people are going to talk about the quarterbacks, I thought the defense played as well as it could have, particularly up front for a while. They just couldn't block anybody. The offensive line just totally let them down. Michael, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for me, this one comes down to the offensive line entirely, and it was just porous from start to finish. Liam Eichenberg gave up a bad sack. I think was that first or second series. It was early on. Greg Little, we talked in the pregame show about how he struggled since his first action this year, and today he just was getting steamrolled. There was one sack where I don't even think he got his hands up yet. And I don't know the last time I've seen that from an offensive lineman. Connor Williams, that illegal man downfield penalty was just an absolute killer, and just poor awareness on his part. It was Robert Hunt had a bad penalty. It was just everyone along the line, and you saw that plays couldn't develop for Teddy. Raheem Mostert, everything that he got seemingly was from him, was just him making the best of what he could do in that situation. It was just they couldn't get anything going. And listen, we could talk about quarterbacks all we want. If Tua was back there with that offensive line, we'd be holding our breath for every single play out there because they just could not do anything all day against a Vikings defensive line. That's fine, but let's not act like this is a world-beating D-line and pass rush. This isn't, the Chargers or the 49ers or so forth. And my God, they made them look like the Steel Curtain.
Ron, that's the thing here, right? If you can't give the quarterback any time, it's hard to see what the quarterback can really do. I didn't think Teddy was great today, and by any means, but this game was there for them. It just seemed like every time they had a drive where it was moving, then all of a sudden there was a sack or pressure.
Yeah, but some of those, there was definitely a lot of pressure. I'm not going to make excuses for that, but a lot of times Teddy was just, he's not Tua in the pocket. Tua can handle pressure. He can maneuver in the pocket. Many times Teddy was bailing when he didn't need to bail and causing a few of those sacks. He was kind of moving into the sacks when he needed to stay in the pocket. He was throwing flat-footed. He just didn't look comfortable. He didn't look comfortable at all. Skylar looked much more comfortable at the beginning of the game than Teddy did, and he started to settle down a bit when we go into the 11 personnel, and then you saw that big game from Gesicki because we were down a lot, so we were throwing a lot, and that's when we got in Gesicki, and that's when Gesicki shines when, it's kind of the run game's done, let's just throw it. And then he just started to settle in at that moment. That seems to be our best offense all year is when we're playing one tight end and Gesicki's really out there catching passes. It seems to be when we really move the ball. We had over 400 yards in this game total. I think Teddy had 331. I don't even think they had 300 yards total offense. Minnesota didn't. I mean, the defense really stepped up in this game. I understand that it was a crap show, like from beginning to end, but we were, until that Waddle fumble, I thought we were about to go win this game. I mean, I really did. That Waddle fumble was just an absolute killer.
Mm-hmm.
I just gotta think that once we get Tua back, and I agree, we need to protect better. We need TA back big time in the worst way. We need TA back, and I can't believe I'm saying this. We need Austin Jackson back. We need our starting O-line back because they were blocking well before everybody got hurt, and we need Tua back. I think if that happens, you're going to see Miami go on a win streak. But, for now, we're 3-3. We are what our record says we are. I like what they did on defense, though. I hope that's like the same kind of turnaround we had last year on defense, where all of a sudden it just something sparked. I saw something spark. I mean, that's a good offense, Minnesota is. They are. They may not be the best defense, but that's a good offense. And I like what I saw, and I think we got a good chance if we can get our line back. Obviously, I'm worried about the cornerback position. As you opened up, everybody's hurt. We got to get somebody back. I don't know what they're going to do there. They may actually have to finally go outside. I mean, we were playing Bethel there at the end, who actually he had a nice play there to stop a third down conversion too. So that shows you where we were on depth. When we had Iggy back there, he actually wasn't completely terrible. I mean, for Iggy, right? And Bethel back there, we might actually have to go outside the team if we can't get these cornerbacks back. Man, the injuries this year. Wow. Well, I mean, every team gets bit every year, it seems like one team just gets annihilated with injuries. Kind of feel like maybe that's us this year, us and the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we look at it, Michael, we say it's hit two positions in particular. Two position, the quarterback position and the cornerback position, and you see the difference that X made today, which was huge. They did hold that offense in check. Cousins never really got any rhythm. Jefferson had a couple of plays, but he wasn't, killing them the entire game by any means. They were right there. I mean, I thought defensively, we saw Raekwon Davis played big today. And I mean, even Noah, who does not belong on the field, but I mean, he made a couple of plays late where at least he represented himself a little bit, but they just can't overcome the injuries there at those spots. But also some of this was self-inflicted. Again, you're taking a look at the offensive line, the Waddle play. This was one of Jalen's poor games. I think as a pro, he was off a little bit in a lot of different ways. Cedric Wilson's still on the team. I mean, that acquisition has not paid off in any way. I mean, Craig Kraft has done some good things for them. The run game, I mean, it seemed like Raheem, had some moments where I thought he sort of made something out of nothing, but they couldn't sustain anything. I don't like the play action when the running game is not working. That's something that they tend to go to, but it's not there. But here's my frustration with this. It feels like all three of these games were winnable. That's kind of, I mean, we could talk about the scores, but to not get any of the three of them, because again, they didn't get any breaks and they didn't make their own breaks. They're going to be looking at a wild card situation now, I think, at the end of the year, because I do think they're going to roll off a few wins here, but they may miss by a game again. Like this is what this is sort of feeling like to me.
Yeah, this is one of the ones where, listen, you heard Bills fans talk about this number and that number from the Dolphins-Bills game earlier this year. But if you look at this, the Dolphins, 460 total yards, 234 for the Vikings. Held the Vikings to 2 of 12 on third down. Ran 23 more offensive plays than the Vikings did. But the Dolphins turned it over 3 times. A critical 3 times, and then 97 yards across 10 penalties. That you saw it take them out of field goal range different times in the first half and take away what looked to be potential touchdown drives as they were moving the ball incredibly well. And a lot of them were just really stupid penalties. And between that and the offensive line, like you said, this should have been a winnable game. And it was winnable throughout the entire time, but they just kept shooting themselves in the foot. And this is going to come back to bite them when you have a team like the Jets go out and beat the Packers today, and the Jets already have a head-to-head over you, And you look across the AFC, you just think you built up a nice cushion at the beginning, but you're just sinking down, and you absolutely cannot do that in that conference.
And looking ahead at that statistically, we had a rough day there. Obviously, we took the loss. The Jets won. The Bengals won. The Steelers won, all against NFC teams. Like, we need the NFC teams to beat the AFC teams. That really helps us. And besides the Ravens taking an L to the Giants, yeah, it was a tough day for us statistically. We definitely we have 11 games left, but we all know how the AFC is and how it's going to be, and that every game's going to count. And we kind of came down a knock there. So we're going to have to go back again and steal a game or two that we weren't supposed to win, sort of like we did in the first three with the Ravens and the Bills. We're going to end up along the way, have to beat San Fran or the Chargers or the Bills again or something like that, along with winning. We're in a situation now where we can no longer lose to teams we shouldn't lose to, period. No. We have to get those wins and steal at least one more that maybe we shouldn't have won.
Yeah, no doubt. But you look at the next 5 games, though. There's no games to steal necessarily, because these are games that I think when you look at the schedule, you would say they should probably win. And that's the shame of this, I think. You looked at the first 3 and you're like, how are they going to get out of that, right? So they do. They win all 3. And then Cincinnati, which was another one, but Cincinnati is not what we expected them to be. So that game was there for them until all of this happens. Last week, I definitely think they win that game under other circumstances. I firmly believe that. If everything sort of hadn't gone wrong in that, and then this game, I just don't think is a great Vikings team. I know their record, but I don't know. I mean, they're not frightening to me in any way. I mean, I think you get at least 1 or 2 of these, and I do think. Look, I don't want to make this all quarterback thing because a lot of other things went wrong today. But Tua's pocket presence as compared to Bridgewater's is significantly different. You're right. And there's also his energy compared to him. It's not just his energy. It's the energy of the team. The team, whatever the fan base or the national media thinks of Tua, his teammates believe in him. It's obvious, okay? And when, they were saying that Tyreek Hill wasn't happy about the way things were going on the field, it feels like when Tua's not there, this team has to generate its own energy, okay? When Tua's there, it's natural. And it just felt like, even at the start of the game with Skyler, who had, I think, a little more sort of juice than Teddy did, particularly Teddy's beginning.
I think Skyler came in ready to play. I really think I think we win that game. We don't stall for so long on offense if Skyler plays the whole game. I think we rack up some touchdowns.
I'm with you. And so to me, I think that, they would have, but again, all the penalties on those drives just killed them. I mean, that should have been a field goal drive. Something else we got to talk about, and Manny Chang is our producer. If you could throw up some of these comments, that would be great. We could play off of them a little bit. I just think the other thing is the kicking situation. I mean, how many games are there going to be turned because Jason Sanders misses a kick that could have changed kind of the direction that things are going? He's now 0 of 3 from 50 plus this year. The kick wasn't close this time. The last game, I'm not saying, the 40-17, it wasn't just because of that, but remember, they were right there in that game, right? 19-17, and he misses a kick. I mean, you go ahead, there is a momentum swing that occurs with going ahead in a game. They have a problem at that spot, okay?
And you give your opponent such good field position too.
Exactly. It's not, that's not an injury problem. He's declining. Like that's a serious issue that they have there. Let's go to this, and Michael, I'll go to both of you guys on this, and again, we'll take more of these comments. I'll read them if we don't have them up. Mark Hens comes in, Tua not getting these games to sharpen his skills is disappointing. Jermaine King, I don't want to hear nothing about the O-line. That's all on Teddy and Skyler being trash. I think there's a little bit of all of it to it. But let's look at Mike McDaniel at this point, because if we're going to celebrate him, which we were all doing at 3-0, the big cojones, the wheelbarrow, all that stuff. He took some chances today. There was the fake that didn't work. It was close to working, but it didn't work. He seemed to do a very good job game planning for Skyler, as you mentioned. Then he's got to switch it up again. He's dealt with adversity. We knew that was going to come. I think he's handled it reasonably well publicly, but now they're 3-3. So I'll start with you here, Ron. I mean, where are we with Mike McDaniel?
We're generating offense. I mean, it's so tough when you game plan for a certain quarter. First of all, let's start with this. Tua, Teddy, and Skyler. I just don't know if you could have three different types of quarterbacks and what they do well and the way they play. Obviously, Tua sees the field so much better than Teddy. I think we can all clearly see that now. Tua is just loads better than Teddy is. And they all just play so differently. And now three times, twice right at the beginning of the game, he's had to kind of scrap the game plan and start over again. And it keeps showing itself right in these games because then the offense just stalls. I don't know how to grade Mike McDaniel in that situation. I will say this though, and I mentioned this during the game. If he lets Sanders kick any more 50-yard field goals, that's on Mike McDaniel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's like 2 of his last 14, I think, over 50. I mean, you're talking about not only not getting the points, but you're talking about giving your opponent like really good field position. I think about how well we held Minnesota back. They were like starting at the 40 half the time. We were starting back at the 5, the 10, the 12 most of the time. So it was just I would like to. I would criticize McDaniel more if Skyler had played this whole game and this is the way it played out. Okay. If Teddy had played the whole Jets game and it played out that same way, okay. It's just hard for me to criticize him when he keeps on having to, right at the beginning of the game, just change it up the way he's changing it up. I think it's clear though that when they go in that 11 personnel, like McDaniel needs to understand, I know he can't just do that the whole time because then it gets predictable and it gets stopped, but they need to find ways to do that more and find more ways to get Gesicki more involved. I know he wants him to block and I understand the offense he wants to run, but I'd like to give McDaniel the benefit with Tua. When Tua comes back, if he picks up where he left off, considering how Tua was the last few seasons and how he is now with McDaniel, I'm back. Not that I'm off of the McDaniel train because I'm not, but I'm back on it. Another thing you can see too is when he loses his starting quarterback, whoever that is, he instantly gets more conservative. Now that fourth down try was a little, with the fake field goal. Okay, that was definitely not conservative, but you can see he starts to get a bit more conservative when that happens. So it's just hard for me to judge him because when Tua's in, it seems to all go well, and when it's not, it's a struggle. But what does that mean? I mean, Tua seems injury prone, but it feels like the guy's a franchise quarterback. He, as much talent as we have on this team, he is the difference for the Dolphins. Yeah. Absolutely. Maybe even more so than Mike McDaniel is. Like, he's the difference. He's the guy. I just hope we can keep him upright, especially like Michael mentioned this O-line right now, and the way it's playing. Oof, it's rough right now. It looks like last year.
So Michael, let's go to that. We'll take more comments here, Manny, if you can throw them up if you can. But I think Michael, when again we look at what he did from a game planning perspective, we talked a lot about Josh Boyer, and I actually think Josh Boyer acquitted himself well today. I mean, that they were kind of bend but don't break. They got off the field. They had 4 3-and-outs at the start of the game. As you guys have both mentioned, the field position was tilted against them. Special teams have not been good this year. I see this from Markins on the comments. Besides the punter, special teams ain't that great this year. And yet, the defense was fine today. Like I think you'll take that all the time. So I thought they were well prepared. They were well coached. But where are you on Mike right now?
My opinions on Mike McDaniel have not changed. I was high on him when we hired him. And then when we went through the offseason, progressively feeling better about him. And then, of course, through those first 3 games, really love his system, really love the stress that he puts on defenses and using what his players do well into stretching them from sideline to sideline and trying to wear them out while throwing the ball, even though he's a big football kind of guy. He's taking what he has and doing the best that he can with it. Then when you have this biblical scale of injuries that he's had, it's tough. I mean, trying to win football games with your second and third string quarterbacks, a 7th-round pick rookie, even if he is 25 years old, that's tough to really judge a guy on. And like I said in the pregame, I mentioned the old Bill Parcells about, you want me to you shop groceries and all that. The groceries on the offensive line are not great. And there's not terribly much you can do when you just have turnstiles at all ends. Now, Ethan, I'm with you in that I don't love all the play action per se when you're not a threat running the ball yet, and you have an offensive line that's just getting run through. So really you're just taking less time away from Teddy Bridgewater or Skylar Thompson to look downfield and throw the ball, and more time for them to get swallowed up by that defense. So that I don't love, but listen, that and then Josh Boyer. I thought Josh Boyer called a fantastic game today. And not only that, but you see Jalen Phillips was a monster today. Raekwon Davis, oh my God, what he did to that poor rookie out of LSU. I tweeted that it's illegal in 46 states, and I think I may have undersold that. So I'm high on both of them still. Disappointed in some of the individual player performances more than what the coaches put in front of them and allowed them to do. Just the execution was really lacking. And then, of course, some things that are out of your hands in terms of how many injuries there are. You can lament some of the players that they've picked up through the draft, free agency trades, so forth, about being potentially injury prone. We knew this about Terron Armstead. We've known that he hasn't played a full season. But of course, when he is healthy, we see why he got that money, is that he is an absolute stalwart out there. But I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because he showed us what he can be and what he should be when he has the tools that he needs. And he's just a rookie head coach, 39 years old, trying to adapt to, oh my God, we have arguably the worst injury situation in the entire NFL. How do I adapt to that? And so I definitely haven't gotten off my McDaniel high yet.
All right, a couple more comments come in. John Santos, can we just save on cap space by just using traffic cones out there? This was not Robert Hunt's best game either. He's been great this year. He struggled today. The center Tanner Connor had a big penalty. They struggled all the way around. I'm with you. They kind of need Austin Jackson back. I didn't think I would say that, but they just need the depth. I mean, he was reasonably capable. When we saw him in camp this year. This comes in from Scarzandi. What are our chances for the playoffs? I mean, I still think the chances are there because the schedule is soft and the quarterback's coming back. So I do feel like I think they're better than 3-3. I do. I do believe it. I don't know that they're significantly better, but I think they're better than 3-3. I think if you don't have like this incredible rash of injuries, I think they're probably 4-2 at the worst right now. This thing is looking totally different. I don't think they're as good as the Bills and the Chiefs when all the teams are healthy. And I think you can mention a couple others in the AFC, but I thought they were a low-end playoff team this year that would be kind of competing for a wild card in the final 2 weekends of the year. And I still think they're there. This comes in from Jeff Matricino. I don't see the genius scheme and adjustments for McDaniel. I do think I'm at the point where I need to reserve judgment on that because I don't – it's not just that they're down to their third quarterback at the start of the game. They don't even know which quarterback they're going to have from series to series. And you're right. I think this is one of the things they need to look at in the offseason is that you need your quarterbacks to be somewhat similar so you can run similar stuff. And they're not. You've got one who's left-handed, not easy to find lefties, obviously, but you got the other two are not, right? But also just style of play, Ron. That's an issue. And then also offensive line. I mean, to me, I said the one guy they couldn't afford to lose this year, it wasn't even Tyreek Hill. It was Terron Armstead. They could not afford to lose Terron Armstead this year because he elevates everybody he plays with, and you saw it today. So I'm going to withhold judgment a little bit on this. Brett, the movie guy, I think it's safe to say this is to his team. This team is so different without him. Also, this is I'm not going to read it all because it's long, but we appreciate you posting the comments here. Ben, but don't break. Defense is loud when your offense can put points on the board. Today's losses in the defense, to be fair, but allowing 24 points wasn't going to win you the game. I just don't think they give up 24 if they're not put in all those terrible positions. To me, this was a give up in the teens game. All right, we got more comments coming in here. This is going to be a shorter show, though, today. I think we can get to 10-7. That's what I had them at the beginning of the year. I still think they get there. So let's look at the Steeler game. Let's look ahead a little bit, guys. Brian Flores is coming in. There's going to be a lot of hype on that. The Steelers won today, did they not? They pulled an upset?
Yes. Yeah, they upset the Bucs.
It was hideous. But Trubisky came in, the second or third quarter?
Yeah, because I think Kenny Pickett actually ended up in concussion protocol.
Yeah, so there you go. Okay, so we may be seeing Trubisky next week. We'll see how this goes with. There's going to be hype on the Tua versus Flores thing. To me, it's the most irrelevant part of this entire matchup. Miami just needs to get bodies back at this point. How do you see their chances? Mike Tomlin, when his back is against the wall, we've seen over the years, he coaches the hell out of that team. I guess that happened today. It may happen next week. How do we feel about next week, Ron?
If we have Tua back, I feel good. If we have Tua and TA back, I feel fantastic about next week. I really do. Even if we don't have Austin Jackson back, that's okay. If we have Tua and TA back next week, it's a win. Like I'm guaranteeing a win, guys. It's a win. Tua's just different. He's just different. I understand that people want to trash him, but clearly he's a really good quarterback. And I kind of had this dream of, man, is Miami ever going to have a top 10 quarterback? I swear. We have a top 10 quarterback, period. End of story. He's a top 10 guy. And I'm excited for him to come back. I think everybody's going to be like, oh, yeah, now I remember what this looks like. I just feel like if let's say Tua had not gotten hurt and played the whole way. I know you thought 4-2. I feel like 5-1 or 6-0. I feel like we win the Cincinnati game. We definitely win today. I mean, maybe we still don't. The Jets kind of caught us by surprise. It seems like the Jets are catching a lot of teams by surprise right now. Mm-hmm. They're much better than we thought. We knew they were talented. We just thought maybe they wouldn't put it all together, that they weren't as good a team. They are. So, which is bad for us because they're in our division and it's another good AFC team we weren't counting on having to compete against for playoffs. But I feel great about next week with Tua in there, especially if Armstead's back.
What do we think, Michael?
Yeah, even though I was down on today before the game, and then of course did not like what I saw during the game. As long as Tua is coming back next week, and like Ron said, if Armstead comes back, that makes an absolute world of difference. I'm throwing today's Steelers-Bucks game out the window, as I still find the Steelers to be a bad football team. You're going up against Skin. They don't have the receivers that you really need to worry about. George Pickens makes the insane catch every now and again. He's no world beater. Chase Claypool, despite saying on a podcast earlier this year he's top 3 receivers in the NFL, he's had just an atrocious year. No TJ Watt on that defense. I'm not terribly scared of the Steelers. Today just kind of proves that Steelers game that anyone in the NFL. That's why that stupid old, can 2019 Alabama beat the Lions? No, these are all professional football players. Anyone can beat anyone on any given day. And that's kind of what that was for me. So with Armstead and Tua presumably back next week, I see that as a Dolphins win. I think the defense, especially the way that a lot of the guys in the front seven came along today and played today, I think they'll cause a ton of issues for that bad Steelers offensive line. And I think the Dolphins will be able to score. I think they'll shoot themselves in the foot a lot less than they did today. Because honestly, you can't shoot yourself in the foot more than they did today.
Yeah, when I look at it, this season is reminding me a little of the 2002 season. I've said this before. Miami at one point was 5-1. They went in Denver. I was there. Lost 24. They won 24-22 on a night game. I think it was a Sunday night game. Gadsden, Fiedler, and Chambers all get hurt that game. They then go 2-4 with Ray Lucas, and then they had to kind of figure it out after that because all the progress they'd made in the season was kind of gone. And then it essentially came down to the last 2 games. They were in, but then they dropped both games. Game in New England and game in Minnesota. Well, game in New England, Minnesota first with Chris Carter dropping a pass, and then New England where for some reason they decided to throw to Chambers 3 straight times when Ricky was running like crazy. This feels a little like this to me, that like we may look back at this stretch. I think Miami's going to get its act together, but I feel like we may look at the end of the season and they're going to be in a make or break situation because of what's happened during these 3 games. We're going to be saying if they'd just gotten one of them, they would be in much better position now. But we'll see how it plays out. Thanks to everybody for commenting here. Thanks for Ron for jumping in, to Michael as well. Thanks for Lewis for jumping in, as well as Eric and Ghost on the pregame show. We'll have more content for you during the week. Extra Yard coming up on Monday with Troy and also with Alex Dono. Prize Picks, use the code 5, FIVE. Have a good day, everybody.